Everyone, good evening, and thank you. Thank you for attending this wonderful event, a great fundraiser for the Oxford Rotary Club, and the roasting of Big Jim Sherman. My name's Tom Offer, and I'm afraid I've known Big Jim for over 50 years. And it's finally time to give him some grief publicly. Here's what to expect tonight. In just a few moments, I'm going to introduce Greg Padella, the president of Oxford Rotary. We'll then have some different folks tell some stories. We'll then open it up to all of you if you have some great stories you would like to share. And then we'll wrap it up with some more music and entertainment. So with that, Greg.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. I have the pleasure of serving as this year's president of the Oxford Rotary Club. And on behalf of the club, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight to help us celebrate Big Jim Sherman. It's so nice to see so many wonderful people here tonight. A little bit about our Rotary Club, for those of you who don't know. Rotary International is the world's oldest and it's the world's largest service club. We are a group of local business owners and community leaders who want to literally give something back to the community through different forms of service. And we get involved with serving our community by supporting different programs in the school system. We also support our world community by helping to fund medical missions that go around the world. We meet weekly for lunch. We meet at the Oxford Hills Golf Club, and we've met there for years and years. The founder of the club, Mr. Hubbard, was a longtime member of the club, and we've called it our home ever since he's invited us there. So we cordially invite anybody who'd like to come and attend a lunch with us to come to the Oxford Rotary or the Oxford Hills Golf Club any Tuesday. We meet at noon, and we twice a month we have a very interesting speaker that comes and speaks to us. And plus you get to see a lot of your friends, so we'd like to welcome you to do that. My part of the program tonight, we have some special proclamations that I'd like to read to you. So if you could bear with me for a moment, I'll grab the first one. This is a proclamation that was passed by the Michigan House of Representatives. One of our longtime members is our current state representative, Brad Jacobson, and Brad wrote this. And this is not the funny part of the program. This is a serious thing that he wrote. He said, "This is a special tribute to Jim Sherman. Let it be known that it is with deep appreciation of the hard work, dedication, and professionalism that Jim Sherman has put forth in support of the greater North Oakland area." Hear that? Yep. They say that we offer their thanks and best wishes. And listen to this. They hereby recognize the commitment, effort, and devotion of this conscientious individual to public service. That's you, man. How you holding up? Bad. Not good? Speed it up. The Church of the Oxford Leader 1955 Chairman of the company now knows some publication with his wife and later Mississippi children to the changes in the area of County and ultimately dedicated structures of surrounding counties technological changes provides me the record of written history of our community and region. Jim has not only shown his abilities within the business and publishing industries, but has lent his time and leadership to many community organizations, including, ready? President of the Oxford Rotary, here, President, Oxford Chamber of Commerce, and Board of Directors of Oxford Bank. Additionally, we offer our thanks and appreciation to Jim for his service in the United States Navy during World War II from 1944 to 46. Therefore, in special tribute, this document is signed dedicated to join with the accolades of the citizens of Oakland and Genesee counties in saluting Jim Sherman. We acknowledge his many outstanding years of service, and we have no doubt that his presence will be felt for many years to come. And this is signed by Brad Jacobson, who is the state representative for our 46th district, and also by Jim Marlowe, our state senator. So this is for you, Jim. Thank you very much. Next, we have a proclamation from the Oakland County Board of Commissioners. It has lots of words on it. And if anybody wants to read the words, you can come on up and take a look at this. Here's another proclamation for you. It says here, we like you a lot. This is signed by Michael Gindrell, Chairman of the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, Michael Spees, Oakland County Commissioner from District Number 3, and also by Tom Middleton, the Oakland County Commissioner for District Number 4. There's a lot of really nice things here. Vote! Vote! But this one I got to read to you. This is the declaration from our county executive, L. Brooks Patterson. I picked this up yesterday at Brooks' office.
I never liked it.
Well, it turns out feelings mutual. It says L. Brooks Patterson hereby issues this special proclamation saluting Jim Sherman on the occasion of his roast, blah, blah, blah. Whereas neither the Federal Trade Commission nor the U.S. Department of Justice has taken notice of Jim Sherman's media monopoly in the northeast corner of Oakland County, but they should. And whereas Jim Sherman, who penned his first column called Jim's Jottings in 1955, recently wrote my headline, quote, "A nation founded by geniuses run by idiots," unquote. Which recalls Jim's founding slogan for Sherman Publications, quote, "A paper founded by idiots run by geniuses," unquote. Brooks goes on, and whereas, as a resident of Clarkston, I will personally attest to the quality of Sherman Publications, in particular the Clarkston News, with which I line the bottom of my birdcage every day. And whereas, all humor aside, Jim Sherman is a respected Oakland County business person and resident whose commitment to his community is unparalleled. Having served as president, blah, blah, blah. But whereas Jim is also deserves our profound respect as a U.S. Navy veteran who founded our nation, who defended our nation, founded our nation. Didn't realize you're that old. The United States. George Washington, guys? You guys founded the nation? Yeah. I didn't notice. Now let us therefore be known that I, L. Brooks Patterson, Oakland County Executive, do hereby authorize the issuance of this special proclamation saluting Jim Sherman for his lifetime of achievement. So there you go. Lots of proclamations, lots of people I'm moving on. And I seriously am. So let me recall back to the podium Tom Offer, and Tom, take it away.
Thank you. Okay, Big Jim, pay attention to these words. Ambitious, brave, bright, calm, charming, cheerful, dynamic, empathetic, faithful, generous, gentle, kind, likable, sincere. That's a tribute to Hazel Sherman. You're welcome. Definitely not you. Wow, you married way over your head. Seriously, how did you do that? I've learned a lot from Big Jim over the years, but I really can't share any of it, and frankly, nothing of it's worth sharing. What I can say is, how do you embarrass somebody that their best friend's name was Pansy? I know some of you knew Pansy Baldwin, and he's a great guy. But let me tell you, he was one of a kind, and the two of them were definitely a pair. I remember snowmobiling years ago. I was just a youngster at the time. And we were in the UP, out in the evening. It was dark, and we had been traveling, probably 20 minutes. And they stop. Pansy gets out, says, "I need motor oil." Gets to the back of his sled, opens it up, pulls out this nasty, milky, colored plastic container with a beat-up metal top to it with this black, syrupy liquid that just looked disgusting. So I'm just waiting for him to open up the hood of his machine and add it to it when I see him and Big Jim drinking it. That's when I learned what blackberry brandy was. There are many Big Jim and Pansy stories, but one of my favorites is when they bought the hardware downtown. It was called Tunstead's Hardware at the time. So Sherman and Baldwin buy this, and this is right next to Patterson's. So anyways, Sherman, Baldwin buy this hardware store. So next thing I know, they're actually talking to my father-in-law, Jerry Ulrich, my dad, Bill Offer, about trying to get them involved in it somehow. And it really wasn't because they needed their help or even wanted them involved. It was because Sherman and Baldwin already had the name of BS Hardware, but thought if they could add an O, they could call it SOB Hardware, and that'd be even better. How'd that work out for you? With that, I'd like to turn it over to Jeff Davidson. Oh, you don't need it'll
Stick in there. Right. I'm Jeff Davidson. For those who don't know me, Big Jim would probably say you're lucky and just go on. But I wanted to make a shout out. Dennis leave? I wanted to shout out Dennis Seitz for that nice music we had at dinner. Oh, there he is. You know, I worked with Dennis for a quarter of a century, and I never knew he played the piano. It's a little embarrassing. He spent 35 years at Oxford Bank doing mortgages, only to find out that the government was going to say you don't have to pay them back anyway. So, anyway, I've never, those who do know me know I've never enjoyed public speaking. And when Tom asked me to say a few words for the Davidson family regarding Jim, I really had to think about it. And then I realized that I really never liked Jim either. So, why not? So we'll start with that. To Jim's family, and I'll mention I did minor in psychology. I do want you to know it's not your fault. That remember you can choose your friends, but you're stuck with him. And the last thing I'd say is you made it this far, so just a little while longer, maybe. Stick it out. All right, throw that one out. And to all Jim's friends, I just say, duh. If you didn't hear the part about you can choose your friends. A dear sweet lady who we miss very much, Mrs. Sherman, used to always say, and her kids will attest to this, if you can't say something nice about someone, it's best not say anything at all. So, Jim.
See ya.
Okay, I got something. Jim's a newspaper man. If you look at the front of that, I always say it looked like Clark Kent. Not the Christopher Reeves one, but the cartoon before that came out. But he's a newspaper man. He's a man of experience, vast knowledge, and he's just old. And I've been meaning to ask you for a long, long time, man of your years and experience, was Jesus as cool in person as it says in the Bible? Come on, that was good.
He never had anything good to say about you. Is that right, Bob?
Okay, a little background. The Davidson family moved to Oxford in 1953. Sherman family moved in 1955. For some reason, I'm still trying to figure out 60 years later, my dad considered Big Jim not just a friend, but a good friend and a dear friend. Now, I don't know if it was some kind of promise that Jim made to Dad, or maybe he just didn't like us, but for some reason, Jim felt compelled to take me and my siblings under his wing and under his tutelage and watchful eye. And for example, as a young teen, my dad took me up to deer camp for the first time. And Jim's son Jim went along too, and it was our first trip up there. And Jim, being the caring, compassionate man he is, and he always wanted to go out of the way to help others, he taught us French. And at least I thought it was French. He and Pansy kept saying, well, you know, excuse my French. So Jim's probably not aware of the rest of that story is, you know, I got to go up there because I had good grades in school. So I went back after that trip, and to impress my French teacher, I walked in, and in the best Sherman French, I asked if I could go to the French-in bathroom. And I forget what the punishment was, but about 1,000 lines of how to actually say that sentence in French. So, merci beaucoup, Jim. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that 45 years since that first trip to hunting camp, I've shot 2 deer, and the sad part is I'm like the leader of the pack in that regard. But we do have a lot of fun. So, and as many of you know, it's always amusing to play golf with Big Jim. It didn't take long after watching Jim play to figure out that I didn't want to emulate either his swing or his attire. Look at your newspaper, 1975, the pants, I think. That was golf like. Oh, he still has those? Okay, good. Anyway, I didn't want to emulate that. And I noticed also that the Oxford Hills Businessmen's Golf League, which had been around since 1956, that Jim nor any of his partners, which were Pansy and then John Petrell and Jerry Farsfed, their name was not on that trophy. And remember, this league started in 1956, and Jim started shortly after. I'm not sure exactly what year. But anyway, an idea clicked in my head, and so I rounded up Jerry, who's here tonight, and partnered up with Jerry after Jim couldn't play. And I thought, wow, this guy is really hungry for a victory. So I approached Jerry, and he had been reduced to a poor, withered soul. And all year long, he just kept going, wow, is this like what it's like to win a hole? Wow, is this what it's like to win a match? And needless to say, but important to rub in, Jerry and I won that league this year. I think I just roasted the entire league, didn't I? Half of them are here. Tough group. I mentioned earlier that Jim kind of took an interest in me and my siblings after Dad passed away. And as I aged, he kept track of me in business as well. And every time he saw me inside or outside of the bank, he made sure to ask me if my resume was up to date. And years later, actually not too long ago, I found out very late in my career that it was Big Jim on the board at the time who recommended that Oxford Bank hire me back in the mid-'80s. Oops. I'm not sure which one of us should apologize for that one, but actually it was a good career and a good run, and I appreciate everything Jim did. Now I'm pushing 61, and Jim hasn't stopped caring for me. It was just this past February I received a phone call from Jim after I returned from snowmobiling with his son, his sons-in-law, my brothers, a couple of our kids, and a few others, Rick Batterson. And anyway, I returned with frostbite, and he got caller ID, and I looked at it, and it's Jim calling me, and I answered, and the first things out of his mouth was, long time ago, your mother told me she didn't raise any stupid kids. You think she'd want to retract that? Well, I happened to be at my mom's. So I says, well, number one, I don't think my mom was ever dumb enough to say that about me. And number two, she's right here if you'd like to ask her. So, I've singled Jim out because that's what we're here to do, but I want to say that along with Jim and his dear Hazel and his kids and their better halves, Sherman clan has always been great friends to and for the Davidson family. Jim wrote the following in his newspaper on January 12, 1983, and I quote, "If the world was made up of Don Davidsons, there'd be no quarreling, certainly no violence, there'd be a lot more sportsmen, people who recognize practically every species of tree, bird, flower, another product of nature, and who love being among them. There'd be more people volunteering to work for their community. Families would stay closer," and the article went on from there. And on behalf of my family, Jim, I ditto that right back at you, maybe without the quarreling part. But, and I will add that this community and all who know you are better for that adventure. And it's still a great adventure, and I hope it continues for a long time. I know we're here to roast you.
I'll drink for this.
But I've been trying to figure out for a while now what the most appropriate tribute I could pay to Jim. So, by the power vested in me by myself, and perhaps by the Rotary Club, they may or may not want to own it, and most likely all your friends and family, I hereby resolve, from this day forward, at least till tomorrow morning, that this familiar and world-recognized symbol shall hereby be known as flipping the Big Jim. With that, Tom, I'm done.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, our next speaker, Devonna Wassel, my sister-in-law, has a great story. And she is very, very excited to share.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's here. Hi.
Please stand up. They didn't hear your name.
Yeah, stand up, please.
Hi, my name's Devonna Wassel, and I've known Big Jim my whole life. He and Hazel were great friends to my parents, Marcia and Jerry Ulrich. We've always considered the Shermans to be family. We spent countless Thanksgivings, Christmases, and vacations together. I liken Jim to that crazy uncle everyone seems to have. One thing I learned early on in my life is to always be cautious what you mention in front of Jim. It would end up in the paper. I saw this time and again with friends and family members. One day at my nephew's graduation open house, I casually mentioned a really stupid car accident I'd had the week before. Inside a car wash, someone drove in the car wash the wrong way and hit me head on in the car wash. Not my fault. Jim loved it, loved the story. Next thing I know, next week, it's in Jim's jottings. So see what I mean? Be really careful. Probably my most noteworthy mention in Jim's jottings came from an incident that happened the night of December 30th, 1975. I was only 14 at the time. Please don't work on the math right now. Our families, along with the Davidsons, shared a 3-family cabin in the UP up at the Hiawatha Sportsman's Club in Engadine. Our family had just arrived that evening and had not had a chance to unload our snowmobiles yet. Big Jim burst into our unit, grabbed me, and said, "Come on, we're going for a snowmobile ride, and you're riding with me." And this is a direct quote here. "I'm going to take you for the ride of your life." I was always game for a snowmobile ride, so I geared up and jumped on the back of his sled. There were 3 snowmobiles in our group riding that night. Dr. and Mrs. Davidson led the way, followed by Jim's daughter Luann and her friend Pam. We rode caboose in the group. We started off across the lake, heading for a trail that they had ridden earlier the day that was on the other side of the lake. Unbeknownst to me, sitting on the back, we veered off the Davidsons' tracks. We were going pretty fast, and then we weren't. It took a minute to figure out what had happened, but we were in the water. Now, at this point, my memories are a little bit fuzzy, so I'll try to do my best. I remember we both swam to the edge and grabbed the edge of the ice. Luckily, Luann and Pam had seen us and turned around. Luann screamed to the Davidsons, and they turned around. Jim grabbed my snowmobile suit and threw me up on the ice. Then he
Grabbed her by the butt.
And that's very true. And then he tried to get himself out, the ice broke, and we fell back in. So by that time, Luann and Pam had turned around and gotten to us. They were laying down on the ice in a chain with Pam in front and Luann grabbing her ankles. They grabbed me, pulled me out. I skittered across the ice, grabbed Luann's feet, and joined in the chain. Davidson's had now gotten to us, and Dr. Davidson grabbed my feet and anchored our chain. We then hauled Big Jim out of the water, which you can imagine is no easy feat. After all, his name is Big Jim. We rode back to the cabin on snowmobiles over the lake, and it started to get cold at that point in time. When we arrived, no one really believed our story till they took a really good look at us and saw that we were just absolutely drenched rats. After hot baths, dry clothes, the police came to take a report. The next day, my dad made us both go back to the scene of the crime. He was without a doubt one of those get back on the horse kind of guys. In the daylight, we could see what had happened. We'd veered near the mouth of the river where the ice hadn't frozen solid. A plane had landed on the ice the next day, yet Jim happened to find the one tiny area on the lake, on this huge lake, that wasn't frozen solid. The guys somehow got the snowmobile out. I didn't really stick around for that, but I do know there was a boat, chains, a grappling hook, and a lot of muscle involved. The next week, the Newberry newspaper reported that we narrowly escaped drowning, and were treated and released from the Helen N. Joy Hospital in Newbury. None of that happened. And the newspaper spelled my name wrong besides.
Good.
At least when Jim writes a story, he spells my name right, and the facts are correct. There are 3 things I'll never forget about that night. The water seemed oddly warm. I'm thinking that's maybe adrenaline that was pumping. It was eerily quiet, except for our splashing, and it was without a doubt, as predicted earlier that night by you, it was the ride of my life.
Thank you, Devonna. Okay, Bob Offer's up next. As he's making his way up here, this is a Rotary event, and Rotary has the 4-way test. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendship? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? He screws it up as soon as he opens his mouth every time. With that, I'll turn it over to my brother Bob.
Well, hello, good evening. Again, Bob Offer. I'm married to Big Jim's daughter, Luann.
Without my permission.
Well, that leads me to a story. I went and asked for Luann's hand in marriage, and Big Jim always had a profound effect on me my whole life. It was a little bit intimidating when you're a young guy. Some of the Davidsons and the Ulriches can attest to, and others. But I asked for Luann's hand in marriage. You did allow me. But it was interesting because I heard after the fact that after I left, he'd asked Hazel, "Did you know Bob and Luann were dating?" Sharp guy. You're right on top of stuff.
Kids were there.
Yeah. Well, and with that, we have him over for dinner quite often, and there isn't a Sunday that goes by that he doesn't remind Luann that he will pay for the divorce, and, we're just waiting for her to take him up on that. I did want to mention tonight, our kids, Dan and Karen, his grandchildren, are sorry they couldn't be here. They really did want to be here, but they're busy. Karen was building some bird nests this weekend out of some of the dryer lint that you sent her last week. And Dan has claimed that he has every picture that you've sent him. And as some of you might have received a picture or two from him over time, Dan's putting them in a catalog this weekend, and he said, "Dad, it's going to take me a couple weekends." So that's why they're not here. And
He's a success as opposed to the father.
well, yeah, it's all the Sherman genes, I'm sure.
Bob, get back here.
What I thought about doing, the Tigers are playing tonight. You want me to stop by on the way home tonight and catch that? They're on the West Coast. I won't keep you up, will I? We're East past his bedtime, for you that don't already know that. But the other thing is, I don't know if anybody knows it, but he has a manure spreader in his yard. And I don't know how many people have a manure spreader in the yard, but that's basically just because he spreads shit wherever he goes.
He's an icon.
Yes. His column's been brought up a few times, and basically I found the best way to enjoy his column is just not to read it anymore. So if anybody else wants to take that advice, go right ahead. He's always right. There's his way and the wrong way. If you spend enough time with him, you will find that out. He's pretty particular about how we do things when we're at camps, and basically I found out it's his way or the wrong way. You disagree with that? Oh, I've been there. One other thing I wanted to mention, he mails out quite a bit of things, and I'm sure people here have gotten some of his packages before too. And Karen wanted me to mention about the jewelry case she received one time. She was quite excited. She opened it up to find a dead frog in it that he had pulled from his pool. You know, similar to go with the lint and some of the other things. But again, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and that's what I've got.
Thanks, Bob. Now I'd like Mickey Hyatt to come up, who I'm sure has.
No,
This could be it right here.
Hey. I have to have a mic here. Anyways, thank you all for coming tonight. I've had 7 grueling weeks of preparing this tonight. I can't tell you how bad 7 weeks, how long it takes to get through this. So anyways, Marilyn Dogood and Lorna Leffer and CJ, we had a meet at 24th Street every Thursday. It was an imperative, you know, every now and then Greg Godella couldn't make it because he had some lawyer stuff, but for the most part, we all were there. And we tried to outdrink Jim Sherman. It couldn't happen. It just couldn't happen. The main reason is because he's got a designated driver, Luann or Jim Jr., which they couldn't go any further. So he won every week. So now we're going to have host parties every Thursday at 24th Street for the next 6 weeks to see where we went wrong with this whole thing. And Jim enjoyed every one of the meetings. So it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing to have all you people here and to take this time to honor a great young man. Young. And I got my note here. I got one thing I gotta say. As soon as I get my glasses. So anyways, this is for Jim. To leave the world a bit better and to know even one life breathed easier because you lived, that is to succeed. And that's for my friend Jim. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks, Mickey. John Beekler, you are up.
Oh, no, come on. What the hell does he know?
He knows a lot.
Grandchildren still here?
Hi, everybody. I'm John Beekler. Man. What can you say about a man who's admired, revered, and loved by everyone? Let me start by saying he's not the man we're honoring tonight. Jim has been a leader and a pillar in our community for decades, working with local volunteer groups and basically anybody that needed any help. And I'm going to tell you a little story that happened probably in 73, 74. I went out with my friends and I came home probably 9 o'clock at night on a weeknight, Thursday probably. As I came in the house, my dad's walking out of the house, which is kind of odd. I said, "Where are you going?" He says, "I'm on security detail for the Oxford days downtown." I said, "Seriously?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "What are you going to do?" He said, "Well, we have to guard the beer tent. So people don't, someone might come in and drink all the beer and stuff." I said, "Are you doing this alone?" "No." "Well, who are you doing it with?" "Pansy Baldwin, Bill Patterson, and Jim Sherman." Yeah, part of the elite forces. And besides his expertise in security, he's also a great family man. And I remember in the 60s, middle 60s or something, young Jim, Dennis Waite, George Waite, my dad, and myself, they took us on a golf trip down to Ponte Vedra, Florida. And it was in the spring, I'm assuming. It was still cold, kind of cold down there. But We flew down in George's twin-engine Aero Commander, and we left late in the day, so it was dark the whole way down there. And it's a long trip with no bathrooms, nothing to drink, and all that other good stuff. So, but anyway, we make it down there, and I learned on the way down that from Detroit, Atlanta is halfway to Miami. And that's when the trip really got long. But we landed down there, checked into a hotel, went out to dinner, came back. Of course, you know, Jim, Dennis, and I, we spent more time at the vending machines buying pop and potato chips and all that other good stuff. So what we did is we snacked and we drank pop, and then we would stack all of our empty cans in front of our door, thinking it'd be a big joke when parents, or when the guys came over in the morning to go get breakfast. We'd just tell them to open the door, they'd knock them over and make a whole bunch of noise, which that's what happened. They came to get us. Cans all fall over. They're upset because it's early in the morning. We might have woke somebody up. And so they said, don't do that again. And that's not what we did, obviously. So the next morning, we piled them all up again. They come over, open the door, big noise. But they weren't mad that time because they were in the room next to us, and in the middle of the night, someone broke into their room and stole their wallets. And so the moral of the story is, had they stacked their beer cans in front of the door, as we stacked our pop cans in front of the door, they would have foiled the crime. But they didn't do that, so the kids won on that one. As long as I've known Jim, he's always led by example, because he knew that if he can't be a good example, you'll become a horrible warning of what not to do. He knows that life is short and no one dies a virgin, because at some point, life always screws us. He learned that marriage is a relationship in which one person is always right and the other person is a husband. He's developed a keen sense of knowing which bridge to cross and when to cross it, and which bridge to burn and when to burn it. As long as I've known Jim, he's been concerned about what people think and say, more so in his earlier years than today. Because some people tend to speak more often than they think, and that made running a local newspaper a little bit difficult, but he's not running anymore, so he doesn't give a damn. When it came to local snowmobiling, Jim learned early to always follow Pansy Baldwin and Keith Curtis and let the others go on their own merry way. When it comes to golf, he had a strategy. Tee to hazard, hazard to rough, rough to sand trap back to fairway, fairway to green, and three putt. Jim, it's been a pleasure knowing you all these years, and I've enjoyed every minute of it, and congratulations on your roast. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now it's time for somebody that Big Jim has terrorized her whole life, and I hear about it all the time. My wife, Diane.
I think she lost her voice.
Please stand up.
Oh, I could be up here forever, but no, I don't know. Is this good? Okay. Anyways, our families go back, as you've all heard. We spend a lot of holidays, as my sister Devonna mentioned. I don't know. There's a lot of stories I could tell, but I'll tell two tonight. The first one, I'm being nice right now, Jim. Pay attention. Yeah, well, drink too. I don't know, this had to be, I don't know, I was probably in 6th, 7th grade or something. The Shermans are coming over, I believe it was Christmas. And anyways, they came over, we had a great Christmas, it was a fabulous day. I remember the next morning, the phone rang at 8 o'clock in the morning. That doesn't happen a lot back in those days, you know, when the landline calls at 8 o'clock in the morning. So after Mom got off the phone, I'm like, what was that about? And she's like, that was Big Jim. I said, well, what happened? She said, he didn't want us to know, but his mother died Christmas morning, and he never told us the whole day. So anyways, like I said, that really touched me, and that's when I began to not be afraid of the giant that I had been afraid of my whole life. I was like, well, there's something inside that guy that maybe I didn't know about. So that's it. Now we'll move on. I'm going to move to a different holiday. Probably, and I might have this wrong, but 6 or 7 years ago, I was having Easter dinner at our house. Jim, somehow I invited him. I don't know why. But anyways, I thought, well, okay, we'll invite Jim, no big deal. And you have to realize when I have a holiday, my family will attest, you want to disappear for at least 24 hours previous, because I'm a woman on a mission, and don't mess anything up that I've already done. They're laughing over here, okay, whatever. But you really don't want to be there, because it's not a pretty picture. Well, Easter arrives, dinner's at 2 o'clock. Somehow everybody's gone. I'm the only one around. I don't know what's going on, but at 11 o'clock in the morning, the garage door, inside the garage, into the house, somebody's knocking. And nobody knocks at our house. Everybody that comes over just walks in. I'm like, who in God's name is knocking at the door? Well, because it's a holiday, I have a dog that isn't normally at my house, and of course it's in the kitchen with me because it's trying to get every scrap possible. So I'm holding on to Timothy and our son and daughter-in-law's dog, Reese, because I'm going to have to open the door, and I have no idea who's on the other side. So you have to picture, I'm on one side of the door. Outside in our garage, there's a big landing, and it's a step. Mind you, it's a step about this high, maybe a little bigger. But anyways, on the other side of the door, who's knocking, when I open the door and I'm holding the dog, I realize the dog goes crazy. It's Big Jim and Shayna on the other side. He's decided it's a great idea to come at 11 a.m. for Easter dinner. That's at 2 o'clock. And mind you, he's also, Jeff referred to his golf attire, I believe. He's got his white belt, his white shoes, and his plaid pants, and whatever, God forbid, he had on that didn't match. It was a montage of clothing. Anyways, he's trying, so we're both struggling with the dogs to get to the story. Next thing you know, Big Jim falls off the step. I'm like, that's what you get, dumbass, for coming at 11 o'clock to freak me out. Hello? Anyways, he's just like, I was just trying to freak you out. And I'm like, well, it worked, but I don't know. You're the one that fell off the step. So anyways, he goes. He comes back in the same awful outfit at 2 o'clock. We have a lovely time, wonderful holiday. Anyways, Luann calls me on Tuesday. She's like, he broke his ankle. I'm like, oh, well. Anyways, the moral of the story is there was a time that his prank backfired. Thank you very much.
Okay, now it's time for Don Rush. We get some representation from the paper.
Is he still working there?
If it's written in the paper, it's the truth, right?
Yeah, that's right. All right. Forgive me, I just got my first pair of bifocals this week, so it should be interesting here. Notice these yellow? Look at right here. I learned something from them. Yeah? yellow cards. First off, let's all raise our glass as a toast to Big Jim. Wow! I'm proud to be here tonight. Fornication. No. For an occasion like this, let's skip that. Yeah, I got my resume. No. My name is Don Rush, and Big Jim, he hired me in 1995. When he hired me, he said, you know, come on into his office, and the doors swung, and I sat down. He says, well, you know, Don, most folks, they come, they start here, and they learn a lot, you know, and they move on. They stay here about 3 years. That was in 1985. That tells you a lot about me, huh? We've heard a lot of really nice things about Big Jim here, Mr. Sherman. Proclamations from the county, from the state, you know, his good deeds have gone far and wide. And,
Hold your arms down.
he's done many things for this community. And we did ask L. Brooks Patterson to be here tonight, but he couldn't be here. You know, he had some kind of charity thing. He had to take some blankets down to the reservation somewhere. I don't know. He's trying to be nice. We asked, you don't see Governor Schneider here either, that little pointy nerd guy. He kind of looked at our list and, well, folks, look around here. The intellectual capital we have combined in this room, the nerd just couldn't come here. It brought him down. But we do have people here like, you know, Ed Adler, and, you know, under his tutelage, we still have our grocery food town. No, we don't have that anymore. No more food town. Sorry, Ed. We have Jeff Davidson, and, you know, his, well, early retirement, Oxford Bank, that worked out well, too. We do have Jim and Hazel's children here. Jim, stand up. Right there, say hi. Luann, Susan, wave your hand, Susan. We call them the trifecta of dimness at work, but no, you know. You know, and then there's me. Then there's me, and I'm just here to make you all look smarter. And I probably won't have a job come Monday. So we've heard these nice stories, and I had some more. Big Jim had this gal that worked for him. Her name was Linda Weld, and she wrote us nice long stuff. And now she's in Alaska. You drove her away from the state, but she had nice things to say about you. Terry Roby, known him through the state, called you a true gentleman and a mentor. So that's very nice. And that's all bullcrap. All the things I would say things, but the Speed children right here. So Trevor, Savannah, Haley. You guys are okay. Your mom won't get mad at me. So, some little known secrets about Big Jim. Take a look at his nose. He didn't get this, you know, playing football without a helmet. He was born a poor black child. You don't believe me? I want you to look at your program. Go 3 pages in. Go right now. Look at it. Open your program up. Three pages in. Page 5. I think it is. Right here. Look at that. Oh my! That thing has a pointier nose than you. Anyway. So what about Big Jim? That, you know, I'm trying to think of things to say, you know, nice, but, well, I'll say this. It was always an education working for him. Like one time was really cool. It was like February, it was probably like 1987, something like that. And it was February, it was like 82 degrees. We had this bank in town called First Federal. Actually, it was a savings and loan. And it had this little digital thermometer on it. I took a picture of it. Boom, put it on the front page. He comes back from lunch. He was on lunch a lot. The press is already run. He looks at the paper. He's like, stop the press, stop the press. He goes to Whitey. Whitey, say, wait, wave your hand, Whitey. You still there? Larry. Anyway, Larry's a printer, just told him to go, F himself, and that was it. But he called me into his office, and he sat me down. This is an educational thing. You don't remember this. He goes, Don, I'm incredulous. We used to have a dictionary back in the office. I had to hold him to stop yelling at me. Went out to the dictionary, looked at what incredulous means. Okay, he's upset. Go back in, and he continued to... So I learned something there. He was a psycho. This man was a slave driver. We had to wear a suit and tie every day to work. Amazing that. Yeah. Thank you, Jim, for changing that when you took over in '93. I love it. One day, myself and a co-worker, Eric Lewis, who cannot be here today, we went to lunch with Mr. Sherman. We went out to Lakeville, I think Louis' restaurant, whatever, and he has a blue van, and we're driving back, and all of a sudden the power door's locked. Click. He stops. He doesn't look at us, and it's kind of awkward. He goes, if you mothers ever leave me, I will hunt you down and kill you. Eric and I still work there. You've heard mention of his golf game. Golf. All the Sherman kids and the family, they're good. They swing, and they're good. It's wonderful. When I first started working for the paper, I was invited to the Michigan Press Association's annual golf outing. It was kind of cool. I always got the best prizes. I was always the worst golfer, and the worst golfer got the best prizes. And people used to say, Don, why can't you golf any better? I says, well, someone's got to work. And you guys were just out golfing all the time. Seriously. I was just probably there to make you guys look better, just like today. But Mr. Sherman really has been there for myself and my family. I would not have been in this community 29 years without him and his wife Hazel. They've done a lot for me, my family, Big Jim, and the girls have too. They're like family, and working there is really good. Mr. Sherman, no one said it this tonight. I'm surprised that, he's one of those rare individuals. Back in the 80s, there was only 2 papers at one time that had computers in this entire state of Michigan. It was the Detroit News and the Sherman Publications. They did a big article on him in a Detroit Monthly magazine. Probably late 50s, early 60s, the Detroit Times or News, I don't think it was a Free Press, did a big article on Oxford. And it was the young businessmen, everybody's like 30, 40 years old. And it was this big swelling of wonderful things that were happening. And Mr. Sherman was a part of that. He's always been not afraid to take a chance. Well, maybe he's been afraid. I've asked him, what was the secret to your success, your first $1 million? And he always said, I was afraid. I was afraid I couldn't pay the bills, pay the mortgage, make that next payment. He worked hard. He was at work before everybody else in the morning. He had dedication. Mr. Sherman, seriously, is probably not only a mentor, maybe he's like a father. My father passed away in 96. He was a little shorter. Well, now he's a little more deader than you. Little. But he always, my father always did tell me, Mr. Sherman will take care of you. And he's been very good to us and our family, so make sure that I give that back in kind. So professionally, there's no one better, and I'm glad to be here and part of this, so thank you very much. And if that don't get me in the will, nothing will.
Thanks, Don. Way to try to save your job at the end. Next, I'd like to, got one more story. It's from Karen, Jim's granddaughter, as Bob said. Bob and Luann's daughter is out in Colorado, and she shared this story and wanted me to read this, so here it goes. Karen and her friend Katie were getting ready to leave their apartment, and Katie noticed that Karen had an envelope, a letter from her grandfather. So here it is in script. Katie, aren't you going to open that before we leave? Karen, I'll open it later. Katie, are you kidding? You have a letter from your grandfather and you're not going to open it now? Karen, no. Katie, wow. If my grandfather sent me a letter, I would open it right away. Karen, I'll open it later. Katie, no, you need to open that now. Karen, you don't understand my grandfather. Katie, I don't care. It's from your grandfather. You have to open it now. Karen, well, okay. Here, you open it. Katie opens it, looks in the envelope, and there's a picture. No letter, no words, just a picture. A picture of Jim's dog squatting to take a pee.
That's entertaining.
Katie, oh. Okay, time for, if anybody else would like to say anything, I can pass the microphone. Oh, over here. Might take a minute to get there. Please tell us who you are. I know they do.
I'm Nina Boyle. I worked in the post office for 31 years. I know the family very well. I'd like to say that Hazel was wonderful. And Mr. Sherman didn't come in very often, but his carrier would bring things to me and say, oh, Mr. Sherman's up to it again. What he would do is take a picture. It was usually Shannon. And flip it over, break the address on it, and put a little message, and slap a stamp on it. No envelope, just throw it in the mail. We thought, okay, this is a guy that owns a newspaper, paper, envelopes. He could make one. No, he didn't bother to. So he afforded us a lot of cheap entertainment. And speaking of cheap, I remember we came in once and was sending a package out, and we were required to ask if he wanted insurance. So would you like insurance on this? He said, no, just going to my granddaughter in college. It's a box of dryer lint. Oh, really? He says, yeah, gotta let them know that folks at home are thinking about them. The next time we came in, there was a similar box, a little bit bigger. Didn't weigh anymore. Do you want to insure this? He says, no. Empty toilet paper rolls. He's got a project coming up. Never did know what those projects were. But Mr. Sherman, you were wonderful.
My name is Cindy Burrows, and I've worked for the Shermans on and off for 29 years, so that tells my age. But I started working for Mr. Sherman back in 76, I believe, 75. And the day he called me and asked me if I wanted a job, I lived in the house next door to the main office there in Oxford. He said, do you want a job? Unfortunately, I was unemployed, so was my husband. He needed us to pay rent, so he needed us to have a job. So he offered me a job, and I said, okay, yeah, I would like a job. He said, well, can you start today? And I'm like, ooh, Mr. Sherman, we're being offered to be paid to go up and paint a cabin up north, and, we're going to be gone for the weekend, we're going to leave today. He goes, do you want a job? And I said, yes, I do, Mr. Sherman. And he said, be here Monday morning at 8 o'clock. I said, okay. So I go into work on Monday morning, not knowing what I'm going to do. This was the year of the Oxford Centennial. I walked around the table for 8 hours, stuffing the centennial books. My feet hurt so bad at the end of the day. But one more story. I knew who wore pants in that business when Mr. and Mrs. Sherman ran it. Because Mr. Sherman told me that one day when I said to him, Mr. Sherman, I don't think Hazel likes me. She's really, really rough on me, always picking on me, always, on my case about everything I ever did. He pointed his finger at me and he said, let me tell you, if Hazel didn't like you, you wouldn't be working here.
Anyone else? Here we go.
Not a big story, Jim. I just wanted to thank the Oxford Post Office for putting up with all Jim's stuff. I get some of that too. But the big thing is, what a great job they do is for 27, how many years we've been at 48 Denison. They've all been addressed at 49 at Pansy, so we get them every time.
Okay, here we go.
Alan Smith. The best thing I like about Jim Sherman is his dog, Shane. That's a wonderful dog. But then, and then the other thing is, when the Michigan and Michigan State are playing, I just love it when I can call and I got this little recording that plays the Michigan State fight song, and I don't say a word. He answers the phone and I play it. That is absolutely wonderful, Jim. And I'm going to make a state band out of you eventually.
I would like to say to Jim Sherman, I am just amazed and so proud of what you brought to our community. And so thank you so much. Also, the people that work for you are just amazing group of people. I enjoy working with every one of them. And so thank you for all of that.
Thank you. Come on, Ed, be nice.
I'm Ed Adler, and I'm the guy, Palash and I are the two guys that educated Jim's children. We ran all the ads for Food Town and for Chrysler that paid for all your education and mentioned that. And other things, probably the Sudies. But anyway, Jim, don't go away from here thinking that these people like you. These people don't like you, they fear you. They're worried that you will say something nasty about them in your little Jim's Jolly house. I have several friends, as you know. My buddy McIntyre ran the Open Press for many years.
I don't remember
And he was the same
You
position.
didn't have many good friends.
I know, he had two.
Two.
And all of them were feared by people who were worried about being bad things said about them in the newspaper. So that's why we all cater to you. We don't really like you. I wrote down on this piece of paper my speech about Jim Sherman. All of my thoughts about it. And I'll tell you what it is. When I think of Jim Sherman, it's one word: candor. That's it. Candor.
Really?
Anybody else?
Maybe too far. Don't trip over the wall run there.
Anybody over on this side?
Where's CJ? I'm sure he's got some.
No, you're not allowed. All right, it's got to be very, very short.
I am a woman of few words. And I am the Dad Sherman's only daughter-in-law.
And I sat at the table with Mom Sherman. And I said, Mom, and I'm almost crying, why can't Jim be more like Dad? And she looked at me and said, Linda, Jim's always not been this way. Thank you, Hazel, you were right. So then both of my husband, he might be a good man like Dad one of these days.
Okay. Well,
Go to bed.
okay, so the deer camp stories were alluded to, and I remember well when I was young after Jeff and Jim Jr. broke the ground so that the rest of us could go up to deer camp. One time we're headed back from deer camp, and Big Jim and Jerry Ulrich, my father-in-law, are up in the front seat. The rest of us are, well, you have to realize, it's 4 or 5 days of very, very intense, hard deer hunting.
Until we run out of beer.
So us kids in the back are basically half asleep, and I hear the conversation between Big Jim and Jerry, and it's about whether or not they drink too much. Now everybody else is asleep, but now I am wide awake, because I'm like, this is gonna be too good. But I'm not gonna open my eyes, because I don't want them to know I'm listening. So they go on, they have this long, lengthy discussion, because I think they were a little bit slow. And they decided that they were okay because they never drink alone. So they don't have this problem because they don't drink alone. Then they decided rule number 1. If you are alone and you want to drink, it's okay to call the other one on the phone. So I just want you to know, in case you get a phone call from Big Jim sometime, and you're not quite sure why he's calling you, just listen for those ice cubes clinking in the glass in the background. Big Jim's a writer, and a really good writer. After thinking about it, I thought, he reminds me of one of the greats. Is it Steinbeck, Dickens, Edgar Allan Poe, Mark Twain? Then it hit me, Dr. Seuss. I found this unpublished story by him. See what you think of Jottings by Jim. I am Jim, Jim I am. That Jim I am, that Jim I am. I do not like that Jim I am. I am Jim, the newspaper man. I jot a lot. I jot about you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and I tell everyone what you do. I do not write news here or there. I do not write news anywhere. I do not write news in a house. I do not write news with a mouse. I do not write news here or there. I do not write news anywhere. Tabloids, I do not like. Tabloids are fake and not quite right. But tabloids make money, and that's all right. I like money, so tabloids are in my sight. I sell ads, ads I sell. I take the money, you can go to hell. A scoop, a series, a sidebar put to bed. You all know I'm not quite right in the head. A pica, a plate, a press to a proof. I'm nothing but a goof. I am Jim, Jim I am. Thank you, Jim I am. Okay, to wrap it up, although we still have this event going on for a while, so more friendship, cocktails, drinks, whatever. But I would like to thank Oxford Rotary. This has been a great event. Greg, Rotary President, Mickey, who put this together, almost barreling through those 24th Street meetings. Marilyn Duguid did an outstanding job organizing this thing. Lorna Lester welcoming us today. Dale Karbaginski for setting everything up that you can hear me. Don Rush, Jeff Davidson, John Beekler, all the speakers, and all of you for your support. So let's enjoy the rest of the evening in music and friendship. And one more thing. I asked him about that. Would you like to say a few words?
No. I'll make you 24th Street, and then I'll talk to you.
24th Street Thursday, I'll talk to you.
One last thing, they are videotaping this thing, and they sell the DVDs, so we have these things. I just want you to know, if you do get one of these and fill it out, then I'll pass on an 800 help number, because obviously you need it for this. Again, thank you all, it's been great, and have fun.